Hi, I'm Nicole Laino. I'm a mindset and business coach. Catch me on this week's episode of The Jesse T Show.
Nicole Laino, welcome to the Jesse T Show.
I am so excited to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
It's a long time coming, and when we connected, we kind of knew right away that we wanted to have a conversation together and do a little journeying together in life and potentially in business, and just kind of seeing where that leads us. And so I wanted to hear a little bit more about who you are and what you do, and share that with a few people that haven't heard it.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, and this is the best part about this business and what we get to do. We get to meet these amazing people and have these great conversations. And so, my name is Nicole Laino. I'm a mindset, and a business coach. And what I really think, we talk about story. I have one of those stories that sort of winds and turns, but I think it had to get me to exactly where I am right now. So one of the things that, and the way that I tell it, the reason that I tell it is because I want people to know that if you are on a windy journey, if it doesn't feel like you are going in a straight line from point A to point B, that's not just okay. Just it's your journey, and it's how you are meant to travel in this life. So for me, it started where I was a creative. I was an actor as a kid. I was a performer. That was where I got my energy from. And when I got older and I tried to play the game of being an actor for business and the business and show business, I didn't really know how to navigate it. It was strange. I did not naturally fall into it, so I ran out of money like actors do. And so I was like early 20s. I'm in New York and I'm trying to make it work. And you get a job here, you get a job there, and you're just like, how do you do this? How do you make this work? And so I got a temp gig, and I was temping, and I would do that, here and there, because I call myself a type A hippie. I am very organized. I'm really statistical, analytical, but I'm also very creative. And I believe that those two sides of me need to coexist in order for me to be the best version of myself.
Yep.
And so I fell into doing assistant work. I was like, I can do this with my eyes closed. I'm really good at it. So I got these temp gigs all over Wall Street, all over New York, and I was great at it. And then eventually the gigs started to dry up a little bit in acting. It wasn't really catching on. And the temp gig that I was at was like, do you want to stay full time? And I was like, no, I can't do that. And they were like, well, let me put a package together for you. And I sold my soul a little bit, and I got offered a job at a big Wall Street bank. And I was like, you'll give me the health insurance and the retirement package and the
Yeah.
whole thing. And I was just so seduced by it, like somebody who was like walking around New York, afraid that they would get hit by a bus and be bankrupt for the rest of their life. That was like
Wow.
just always hanging over. And I always felt very taken care of, but that was always there, It's always like, you are really just vulnerable. And so I took the job. And I loved the job for a while because it got me to feel rewarded for the work that I did and for who I was. And I felt like I wasn't getting that from the creative side of things for so long. Fast forward, I did that for like 6 years. I climbed the corporate ladder there. I was on my way to VP. I was doing really, really well. And I totally burnt out.
Yep.
And I was diagnosed clinically depressed. And right now, I mean, I don't know when this will air, but this is May right now. So it's Mental Health Awareness Month. And so I want to talk about this. I was diagnosed clinically depressed. And it was the greatest wake up call I could have asked for. Like, I looked at it as a gift. I looked at it then as a gift, and I look at it now as a gift.
Beautiful.
And it was my ticket out. It was the rock bottom that I needed to force me from leaving the cushy, comfortable, seemingly beautiful life of the six-figure salary, the big bonus, the high-rise building, to work in, the Louboutin shoes, and all of those things that the trappings of what everybody else says is important, and say, screw it, I'm going to do something else. And I moved to LA to kind of figure out what the next move was for me. And I found entrepreneurship. And that was that. And that's where I am now. It morphed into me starting a software company, working with the people that were clients of that software company and helping them build their businesses. And that's where I am today. And that kind of started off with just like the technical aspects of business, but business is spiritual. And it was really, so my journey has really just turned into a way of my becoming and helping other people become this version of themselves that they know is trapped inside somewhere.
It's beautiful. And what was the term that you used to refer to yourself as something hippie?
A type A hippie.
Type A. Yeah, I call it a high functioning hippie because I'm
Yep.
totally a high functioning hippie, and being in alignment with what your spirit yearns for and what it calls for. No amount of money is gonna fill that void. No amount of money is gonna, it will lead to different things. And I don't know, I won't be someone who tries to like diagnose or say like, what your depression might have been or what it was, but like a lot of people will, especially Wall Street bankers. I mean, I'm in the wealth management field, so I know that to a degree. I'm down in Atlanta, so I didn't live like the Wall Street life, but I understand it. And I know, especially like after '08, like there were people that were literally like killing themselves because of the market crisis. And in that industry, specifically in New York and Wall Street, there's a lot of like cutthroat. There's a lot of politics, if you will, nepotism. There's also like, you know, comparison. There's a ton of comparison up there.
Mm-hmm.
And like we see movies all the time about like the decadence. And like obviously some of this is overblown, but some of it's true. And it's like if you're always comparing and if you're never satisfied and you're chasing money, it's going to leave you empty. It's going to leave you unfulfilled. So what was it that was for you kind of like the straw that said, screw it, I'm leaving New York, I'm leaving this kind of quasi, past of like, trying to build something, but it wasn't really clicking. And like, he's like, screw it, I'm just going to LA. Like, what was the muse for all that?
I had always felt a calling to go to LA, and
Okay.
I had not listened to it. And I felt like one, so there were a few things. The straw, I guess, was just really me realizing how unhappy I was. And I look back on it now, and I look at depression, sort of at least my own experience with it, and from other people that have experienced it that I talk to, it's your soul sick. Your soul is saying to you that where you are, what you're doing, the moment that you're in is not true and is not serving you. And you need to take a good long look. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's exterior, sometimes it's internal stuff. And for me, I knew, I'm like, there's nothing wrong with me. I am not I'm not broken. I'm not, I am in, there's something that needs to change, and I need to figure out what that is. And I
Yep.
knew in my heart, I was like, I don't belong here anymore. I did for a little while. I think I got what I needed from this place, and now I need to go. And there's just this one moment, I've told this story before, like to my clients and stuff, but I can remember standing on West Street, which was where our building was, floor to ceiling windows, this gorgeous new building. And I'm in like my fancy outfit, and I'm leaning against the like panel of the glass, looking down from the sixth floor down onto West Street. And I remember the thought that I had was, look at all the free people down there.
Mm.
And that moment hit me hard. And I was like, you get to choose, Nicole. No one is forcing you to be here, and you need to take a good long look at what you want. And like I said, I was an actor, so I always had this pull to California, to Los Angeles. I always felt like I belonged out there, and I had chickened out on going.
Mm.
And I knew if I quit this job that I needed to get out of New York, or I would get sucked back into it. I just knew that the comfort of it, the ease of it, the easy choice of just like getting the big salary and selling my soul again. I did it once, and I was afraid I would do it again. And I was like, I need to get out of here, because all my friends worked there. Like my whole world
It was just
revolved
a
around
bubble. Yeah.
corporate structure. And I had a codependency issue as well. And corporate structure is sort of built for that. It's built for people to come in, you do the job, you get your pellet, you get your pat on the back, you get your bonus, you get your review, someone tells you, good job, girl, and you go home feeling good for a little bit, and then until you can get the next one. And I made a choice, and I was like, I want to do that for myself. I want to be the person rewarding me, and I want my life to reward me, not this corporate structure that, because it works both ways. You get the pellet, and then sometimes you don't. Or sometimes they tell you that, nope, they get 2 pellets, you get 1. And then you suddenly start comparing yourself and trying to fill these voids with these corporate rewards, and that's not real.
No. It's interesting. We have a similar dynamic. I grew up in Boston, and I always felt out of place and out of time for, and I know now why. It's just, it's my soul's journey. But back then I didn't know, but I always felt like I belonged in California as a kid. I always felt like I
Hmm.
should, and it was my heart and soul's at the ocean. So it was partly because of, I wanted to be a surfer when I was a kid. And I always thought of California, like all these big waves and just beautiful lifestyle. But it's interesting how, like, even at a young age, my soul knew it was out of place. Like, it wasn't Boston. Boston served its purpose, taught me a lot of negative things, taught me what beauty of life was and all this different stuff. And so um, I want to talk a little bit about, I think it's really important talking about your soul's journey and the work that you've done around depression. And then also you mentioned codependency.
Mm,
Have you done work around that as well? Can we talk about those few items?
sure.
Yeah.
So my depression, I really did feel that like it was that there was a lot of things around it. So the themes were doing things that I did because I thought I should, or they were the right thing and not the thing that my soul was really calling me to do.
Yep.
And my soul put the brakes on and she was like, no, no more. I'm tapping out. If you don't want to do it my way and you're not going to listen to me, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to drag you down until you do. And I listened to her and I started an adventure. And to my husband's credit, I went to my husband and I was like, I'd like to move to LA, quit my six-figure job on Wall Street. I would like to move cross country. How do you feel about that? And he was like, I could do it. And I was like, God bless you.
Wow. Wow. Good for him. Good for
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
He works remotely for a company in Boston. And so he worked remotely anyway, but he was like, yeah, I could get out of here. I've done the New York thing for my whole life and let's go someplace else. So depression for me was really about my journey with it. And the work that I did around it was very much about understanding the themes in my life and how they were holding me back, how I had not listened all those times, how the knock had come and I didn't hear it or I
Yes.
chose not to hear it. And those little moments of feeling like you should do things was a very big theme for me. There were a lot of shoulds, and I worked with a therapist, and I remember, very New York, like typical psychotherapist, kind of just sitting there asking you interesting questions about yourself, just like not even interesting questions. You just say something and be like, and where did you get that idea from?
Right.
But it started to get me like those Socratic questioning kind of things, got me thinking in that way about myself. And with depression, I think my biggest lesson with it was to pay attention. I was asleep at the wheel
Yeah.
for a little while and enjoying too much exterior stuff that I wasn't paying attention to the many, many signs I was getting internally.
Yeah.
And even right now, I'll talk about right now, you and I were talking before the show, there's been like, we've been experiencing kind of shifts in the energy and just, I've felt a little funky. And this weekend it's been raining here in Austin like crazy.
Mm.
And I was feeling super down, and that's not normal for me. I normally, like, I do a lot of work. I normally can feel out of things pretty quickly. I can tap into what's going on. I can work through it. And this one, I was frustrated, really built up. And I went to my husband and I told him, I'm like, I need some time. I need to I need to squirrel away for a little bit. I need you to take care of our 3-year-old. I need help. And that was the biggest thing, was asking for help, not feeling like I needed to do it on my own,
Yeah.
and using the tools that I use with myself and with my clients. I did tapping, EFT, I meditated, I did some breath work, I journaled for a bit. I really needed to tap into and connect with myself inside. And that's what I go to now. And it's what I learned to go to back then. And then codependency, I'm just sort of on alert about that I recognize when I'm trying to fill some void in me with something else,
Mm.
partnering with something,
Yes.
and not getting all of the juice from me, because I can tap into it. It's sort of a lazy thing that I do, is like, it's very easy for me to go and please somebody else. that is a strategy that I've
Wow.
used. And I talk about the the strategies that we all use to kind of stay where we are and to not grow beyond ourselves. And one big one for me is pleasing.
Mm,
And it's just a strategy that I learned when I was a child. I had like a combustible father who was very difficult to be around. You didn't know what you were going to get, if you were going to get Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde.
mm,
So it was far safer to tiptoe around and just make things perfect around him. And so you learn that, and it just becomes who you are. And I did that in so many ways in my life. And pleasing was one of those ways that I was very good in the corporate structure. I was
mm.
very good at pleasing the bosses, pleasing, the higher ups, pleasing my peers, and just being the good girl until your soul starts crying out to you, fuck you, you're not that good. Just stop it. Stop it. Do what you want. Stop caring
Mm.
what everybody else needs and focus on me. I've been crying and screaming on the inside for years, and you haven't heard me because you're so busy listening to everybody else.
Wow. That's I am a complete believer that the universe doesn't make mistakes, and the universe has absolutely been conspiring for me in many ways recently. And it's this conversation couldn't be more timely, based on your experience, because I'm working through reconciling a past relationship, and just kind of to save names. It's not really public at this point, but there was a talk of codependency literally this morning at 5:30 in the morning, and we talked about jumping on, and you might want to start the timer, like the billing. Go ahead and click it on now. But this is really important. There's a lot of people that listen to this that are on a spiritual consciousness awakening path, that are dealing with codependency, dealing with depression, dealing with all these different things. So this couldn't be more perfect for conversation. And I thank you for bringing it to attention. But I was in a codependent relationship for years, and we're since, we took some time, and we're since trying to reconcile, but we had a really tough conversation over the weekend, and it was heart and soul wrenching for me. And I felt like they didn't show up for me. I felt like I'm not being seen. I feel like I'm not being heard or loved. And I'm coming from a place of pain, but I'm not coming from a place of ego. Like, I've done a lot of ego work, a lot of pain body work, but I'm definitely still hurt. Right. And all I really wanted was like a genuine apology, but the apology that I got has always been the same apology, where it's like, I'm sorry, or I'm sorry, here's my hurt too, where like I've learned to apologize through the years. And even if I'm hurt, like, the apology is about them, and it's not, I'm sorry, but. And so because I apologize like that, and I know I shouldn't hold people to standards, but I do know what a good apology sounds like, and it's hard for me to take that. So I'm like, oh, fuck. So this codependent thing came up, where this person was like, you're looking for me to make you feel better. And that's not what I was doing at all. I'm looking to be acknowledged, recognized, and heard, and looking to do the joint work together to heal together, albeit on the side, doing my own self-healing, hanging out with my soul tribe, doing self-care, like doing the work. So like, it's not, in my mind, codependency. A, do you feel like it's codependency? And then B, what the shit? Like, I need some advice.
Well, without knowing both parties, the
Yes.
one thing I look for in codependency is because truthfully, there's a reliance on the other person for some form of your worth or some form of your happiness, or
Sure.
where it's and what you're talking about, the I'm sorry, but that one of the things that has to happen in any relationship, business, personal, romantic, whatever, both parties need to take 100% responsibility for themselves and for everything that happens.
Yes.
And that's a really hard thing for people to do. And even when we feel like we're doing it, that's always the first question that I ask myself: am I truly taking 100% responsibility?
Mm.
And when you can do that, if you really are, then that's what will break up codependency. And there's always there's another saying that I like to, this woman, Catherine Elliott, I believe, she has a book called Existential Kink. And which is just, I bought it even just purely for the title. I was like, I have
Right.
to own this book.
Provocative title.
Yeah. But she has a saying in there that I go back to all the time. Having is evidence of wanting. And
Mm,
so if I have something on some level, I want it.
yeah.
On some level, it is giving me some form of satisfaction. It is pleasing some part of me that maybe I am not facing. So I always look at that. And I think that that can sometimes bring out where we are leaning on somebody else, leaning on,
Mm,
having as evidence of wanting. So if I have this relationship, how on some level is it mirroring another relationship I've had?
yes.
Is it playing out a pattern that has been present in my whole life? And have I seen this before? Have I felt this before? What part of me is really being served by this? Is it my need to fix people? That was one for me.
Mm,
I was a big fixer, that if I fixed people, if I helped people, then that meant that I was better. And and then to go into coaching, I had to do my own work of like, why am I going into coaching? Why am I doing this? I can't fix people. That's not my job. My job is to help them find unlock those places in themselves that
yep.
is currently unavailable to them, or they're not seeing it. And I have to remind myself of that all the time, and to not take it personally, the results that they get, that I'm a guide on the journey for them to help them find their own place in it. So that those are things that I don't know if it's codependent, but if you're finding that it's hard to break from, some questions that I might ask would be, how is this relationship serving me? What is the part
Mm,
of me? Because almost all relationships are somewhat codependent. There's some element of it, but and am I getting any validation from this relationship that I should really be getting from myself?
yeah. That's so powerful. And it's like a lot of times I feel like people intuitively know the answers, like know what they should be doing, but it takes process and experience to kind of like come to fruition for those things. And for me, I've been sitting with it and introspection and discernment and those exact questions. How is this supporting me? How is this, serving me? What am I chasing? What need am I fulfilling? All like, what is my mother father wound that's playing into this? Like I go
Mhm.
deep into that sort of stuff. And I can already tell you, just being fully like open, that part of me is probably not doing the work that's the needed work of like alone time. And like
Mm.
back in the day, because I had a similar relationship with my mom, with the one that you had with your dad, where you just never knew, like, and you never knew what was the mood was gonna be, if you were gonna be judged, if you were gonna be wrong for doing something. So there was like the eggshells kind of deal.
Mhm.
And up until a couple of years ago, I was the person where if I felt like I created a wrong in someone, I wanted to fix it right away. Like I didn't know how to hold space. I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. And I've learned over the couple of years that like that's not something that I need to do anymore. But even knowing that, I still sometimes, I don't love conflict
Mhm.
as much as like I've been an MMA fighter, and like I fought in the streets of Boston growing up. Like I like the conflict was there, but like I'm a softie at heart. Like I love love, and I love hugs, and I love being in alignment with people. And when I'm not, it puts me in friction with myself, and it's like it's uncomfortable. So all this to say, I'm going through an uncomfortable process where really the work is going to be the self work, the creating space, listening to my heart, like journaling, meditating, like really diving deep and creating, as much as I want the togetherness, creating that distance, which is going to be the hard part.
Yeah, and it's the togetherness kind of comes, I really do believe that when we start to deal with it's because it's the feelings underneath the thoughts, it's the emotions, and really being able to feel the emotions that are under it. And like I meditate, I journal, I do all of those things to uncover the emotion that I am not comfortable feeling.
Yeah.
And sometimes those tools are used to do the digging for you, to figure out like, what's the emotion, because that's what we're protecting. We don't want to feel something. It's not that we don't want to think something. We think things all day long, and horrible thoughts come through our minds constantly, no matter how hard we work. But it's the emotion that we protect ourselves from. I don't want to feel. It's not the pain. There's something deeper,
Mm-hmm.
because especially if you're doing the work, the emotions, you're tapped into those surface level ones. It's the ones that go really, really super deep. And those vows that we've made, that we will never be this way, we will never do this thing.
Yes.
There's some part of us that's saying it is not safe for you to feel this because it almost broke us once.
Yeah, loneliness and being unwanted, uncared for.
Mm-hmm.
Those are probably the deeper feelings of where the hurt and the frustration are stemming from, like the core tenets. Wow. So as far as these protocols, you talked about EFT tapping, all these different things. I want to get into those specific, like you're a wizard, right? Like I have a collection of wizards in my life. I'm a wizard too. And my wizardry is plant medicine and divine truth, and sharing my story to heal myself and heal others and kind of thing. And so, have you ever worked with plant medicines?
I have not, other than recreational use when I was younger, that had nothing to do. It was mind expanding, but
Right.
in a totally different
Sure.
way.
Way different, by the way, for people listening, like doing
Yes.
it for fun versus doing it in an intention set and setting with ceremony behind or ritual. Like it's way different. Yeah.
Yes, I have never partaken in that.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I know that you have your own protocols, like in terms of healing yourself, healing other people. What are some of those things, if you can dive into them?
The ways that I do it,
Mhm.
the tools that I use. So I use EFT is a big one for me. It's a kind of another version of it. So it's not traditional EFT. It's called the rapid relief method, where and I really just look at it as I kind of talk about it as like being the more unapologetic version of EFT, because EFT can sometimes be a little bit, and I'm not ragging on EFT, but for me, when I did it in the traditional way, I didn't really get far. I could neutralize an emotion. I could kind of get where I felt better. I could
Yes.
say like, I'm feeling all this anger. I'm feeling all this anger, and I deeply love and respect myself, and I'm letting
Mm.
it all go. And I would go through that, and I'd be like, okay, I feel better for the moment, but I didn't feel like I cleared anything out. Whereas the rapid relief method, we get down and dirty with what we are really feeling. The point is to bring up the horrible feeling,
Ooh.
feel it, and as you are tapping, you vibrate that feeling out of you. So it's no longer trapped, because we think that if we choke off an emotion, so like someone makes you angry and you go, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to get angry because it's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's not worth my energy. It's not, they're not worth it. And we rationalize it and we stuff it down. But that does not actually mean that you didn't feel the emotion. You just put it in your body somewhere.
Yes. Yes.
And that's how it ends up poisoning you, basically.
Yep.
And the next time something small happens, all that anger is built up underneath it. So something little that shouldn't make you really angry and fly off the handle does, because your cup's full. Your anger cup is full. The
Yes.
anger cup has been full for a long time, and one little drop sent it overflowing. So with the rapid relief method, we tap that shit out. We tap it out.
Oh
We
yeah.
get to the heart of that emotion. We tap it out, and then we actually clear it. So that's a big one that I use.
What's that
I
process look like? Like in terms of what's the modality, like the start to finish, like the practical side of it. Like what are you doing with your client, and like what are the steps they're taking to get through that process?
So I have a tapping program that I walk people through, which goes through all of the major emotions.
Mhm.
Like, so there's two ways of doing it. If you work with me one on one, we talk about what's happening with you, and then I will record things for you to tap with. We might tap with each other. Some people don't like doing it one
What
on
can you tell
one.
people what it is? What tapping
Sure.
actually? Yeah.
Sure. So tapping is meridians run all through your body. So if you've ever had acupuncture, you're familiar with at least the concept of meridians, probably acupuncture. And I usually make this analogy because people can get it. And acupuncture, they take a little needle, they tap it into the meridian, because the belief is in Chinese medicine that if you have pain, if you have discomfort, if you have anything that's not working, where your body is 100%, your mind is 100%, then energy is not able to flow through your body as it should. They, through these meridians, they tap a needle into a spot on the meridian that, you know, I'm not an acupuncturist, so I can't tell you to that degree, but they say, this is the spot that's blocked. We'll put a needle in it. We're going to vibrate that needle and tap that needle to open the channel up again and allow energy to flow.
Yep.
And we'll allow all the bad stuff to flow out, and good energy now will, the chi will be moving through your body. Those same meridians we are using with tapping. And so we tap on these meridian points, which is above your eyebrow is one of them, on the side of your eye, like by your temple, like the outside of your eye socket, underneath your eye on like the top of your cheekbone, underneath your nose on the top of your lip, on your chin, then on your, like right below your collarbone, there's a spot. And then on your rib cage, like for a lady, it's like right where your bra hits. For a man, it's probably your second or third rib from the bottom. And then on the top of your head, like right at your scalp. And so those are the tapping points. And we talk through in rapid relief, we tap through the issue that you're feeling. So for me, it could be that my husband's socks are on the floor again, and I'm mad that I have to pick up the socks, and I have this irrational anger about socks on the floor, right? So I might start tapping and start talking about like, God, his socks are on the floor again. I'm picking everything up. Why do I have to do everything? And I'm tapping this whole time. I'm tapping on those points.
Wow.
And I'm talking about, I'm going, why do I have to do this? Why is it always up to me? Why is it that if something doesn't, if I don't do it around this house, nothing gets done? It always has to be me. And the underlying thing that I will get through, and if I go through that whole tap, is I might get to the point of feeling unsupported. And maybe I'm feeling pressure with my business because there's a lot going on. And underneath it all, the real belief that I have and the emotion is that I feel really unsupported. And how am I ever supposed to get anything done and grow my business and get to where I want to be and have all these ambitious goals? How can I ever possibly get them done and reach them if I have to pick up the freaking socks?
Yeah.
If nobody's helping me. And that makes me feel alone, and that makes me feel the sadness, and that makes me feel this unsupported, unloved energy, and this feeling. This is what I don't want to feel. Yes. So this is what I've been suppressing. And when I can face it, I can clear that, and I can do it really quickly. You can, if you have like, there's sort of a process that you can go through of cleaning out all of the stuff that's stuck. And that can take you a few months to get through all of it, depending on where you are. Yeah. But once you do, then you can spend 3 minutes tapping and tap out something in the moment and literally move past it. So that's where it becomes sort of like a troubleshooting guide for life for me.
Yeah.
So something like where if you're sitting down to work on something in your business and you're finding resistance, you can tap through that resistance and break it and start working again. Whereas some people, it's great for writer's block and things like that, creative flow. You can tap through all the fear because it's mostly a lot of fear.
Shit, that is so powerful. And I'm a yes. So I'm going to set up a time with you to do my own thing. But does this tie into quantum healing at all? Is it similar? Is it like the same kind of thing, or is it a little different?
I mean, quantum healing, do you mean how do you mean quantum healing when you say that? So
I held a retreat a few weeks ago, maybe a little bit more now. Actually about 3.5 weeks ago. And it was like a spiritual retreat. So we were working with breath work. We were working with Qigong. We were working with ecstatic dance. We were working with plant medicines. And on the last day, and I was a facilitator running this retreat. So the last day I got to really be an attendee. And one of the gentlemen, his name is Isaac, and Isaac is a Georgia Tech grad, super sharp when it comes to like engineering, analytical, chemical engineer, happens to be tapped in the spiritual world and been working with ayahuasca for like 20 years and makes his own brews and like does his own ceremonies. Like he's like doing a lot of hard work. And he has this quantum healing that's tied into, it's similar to the tapping. I saw him do tapping. That's why I asked the question. And then he also does like kinesiology, like the questions where like he'll ask questions. He's like, is this doing something? He'll like do his fingers like this, and like he'll be able to answer questions like that. And the profound feeling and insight that I got was tremendous. And so for some context, during that weekend, as a facilitator, I had to hold space for people. So I didn't partake in any like plant medicine substance. I had to facilitate and hold the space for everyone. However, a few days before that, my co-facilitator and I went on a deep journey. And I've been working with plant medicines now for over a year. And once you start getting down the path with them, you start to learn that you can really, like, as weird as this sounds, it's like a genie in a bottle. You can really ask for what you want intention wise, and it'll play out in your life, business, relationship, health and wellness, whatever it is. And my one ask that day, outside of just going on the journey, was to find out what my superpower was.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm laying on the floor, Isaac's playing this song, and has healing tones embedded in the music and in the spoken word. I think there was like Alan Watts was speaking, there was some music, and then there was like some tones that he embedded in there. I'm laying there with my hands open to receive on the ground, like on a yoga mat with a pillow and a blanket, wide open, energy flowing through me. And all of a sudden, like as he's doing his thing, my eyes just started bawling. And I'm crying hysterically. And a buddy of mine next to me consoles me, puts his hand on my shoulder. And I'm just letting it all out. Like there's almost 20 people in the room, guys and girls, and I give zero fucks. I'm just like, bah! Like ugly crying. And what happened was I saw all my life's trauma flash before me. Being bullied, having a broken home, having a dad that was a junkie for many years of his life, being a junkie myself, selling drugs, doing drugs, holding my daughter till she died, holding my mom till she died, like all these tremendous pains that most people don't feel in a lifetime. And I felt them by the time I was in my 30s. And I fucking sat up. Again, zero substance. I felt this before with breath work, and I felt it before with substance, meaning plant medicines. I sat up in a lotus yoga pose, my hands open, and my hands were fucking charged. They were powerful. They were full of energy. And I was coming into a place. I had just come back from Peru a couple months before. And like one of my downloads from ayahuasca was that I'm a healer, that I'm a creator, that I'm here to like help people. And I started chanting that mantra that I had in ayahuasca that was coming to me. And it was just more powerful and more powerful. And I sat there in front of everyone and we did the sharing circle. And I was like, I know what my superpower is. So like what I asked for on that Wednesday before, and then come Sunday when I had this quantum healing, I found out what my superpower was. My superpower was to go through some of life's biggest hardships and traumas to heal myself so that I could heal other people and be on this path of healing as I go forward. So all that to say, it sounded similar to what you do, like in terms of like the tapping and like the energy work. And I just didn't know if it all tied together. So
Yeah, I guess I never called it that. I do work with the quantum
yeah,
because I think if you don't, then you're missing a huge piece of the puzzle.
yeah,
That the idea that, you know, that everything exists in the quantum field and we are connecting either to what we want or to what we don't want. And there are the very best possibility and the very worst possibility all exist all at the same time. And keeping that in mind, I think is very important. And I think that's, you know, as you were saying that, you know, looking at your trauma, looking at everything that you had to endure and all the pain that you went through, there was a purpose to it.
Yep.
That there, when we look at that and we look at it and say that these are somehow lessons that you had to learn, they're experiences that meant something to you, but now will mean something to other people
yes,
by you living your life the way that you're meant to live it. That you finding your purpose gives purpose to all the things that happened. And that was something that I knew from like, while I didn't know it, why, I knew it on a soul level. I was like, there's some reason that my dad kicked me out when I was 16. There's some reason, all of this stuff I know happened for some reason. There's something, there's a greater purpose to this. This was not for nothing. This was not just to inflict pain on me. I know that. I don't know why, but I know that. And I think that that's what healers and mentors, coaches, the people who end up on this journey, you do know it on some level. It's what gets you through those tough moments that you think that you can't get through.
yeah. Yeah, it was so profound. And I'm a huge advocate of this type of work because it is meaningful and it is powerful. And it's, you know, the United States specifically has a big issue with pain pills and surgery, pain pills and surgery, pain pills and surgery. And it's just not, it's muting the consciousness. It's when you take, you know, there's maybe a time and a place for pain pills. And again, this comes from a guy that used to sell Oxycontin, which was heroin in a pill. And I'm like, why the fuck do you need heroin in a pill? You don't. And the body has a beautiful way of healing itself. and being receptive to change. And we all actually have capacity as innate healers. It's just we mute those abilities when we do things like that. And so knowing that, like I've gone on the completely holistic side, the natural side, the almost woo woo side of things. And so I've come across people, and I wanted to bring up this name because it sounded like you may be familiar with him. Have you heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza?
Of course.
Yeah, yeah,
Of
yeah. Like and what you
course.
were talking about, like just a few moments ago, all I kept on hearing was Dr. Joe, Dr. Joe, Dr. Joe. So, was he part of the learning for you, or part of what you do now? And then also talk about how did you get into this? How did you get into this type of work, and like how long, and what was the muse and all that stuff?
I mean, Dr. Joe was definitely a big catalyst. So I guess maybe I found his work a few years ago. So like maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago when I started. And he was kind of the entree to all of this. And he just explained a lot of what I had heard and studied. I had meditated. I had like dipped into, I guess you call it the woo woo side. It doesn't feel that woo woo to me anymore, but the softer side of things. I took care of my grandmother for the last year of her life when I was 23, I
Mm,
believe, and that was a really rough journey for me because I loved her so much. And I went to bed every night knowing that I would probably be the one to find her in the morning gone.
yes.
And that stress, and I was so young. And I turned to yoga and I turned to meditation, and I started to strengthen myself and center myself. So that was the start of me realizing that I have to have a strong core to do the tough things in life that are the most rewarding. Like it was the hardest thing I ever did. And the greatest thing I ever did was take care of her.
Yes.
And so when Dr. Joe's stuff came up, that was this blend of, he just explained it in a way, explained the quantum, explained our place in the universe, our place as creators in the universe, our ability to transmute anything that had happened to us
Yes.
into the most beautiful thing we could ever imagine. And it's all about your ability to desire and your ability to connect with and imagine something better, something amazing is the only thing standing in the way from you having it,
Yep.
is your ability to do that. And when I went through his whole progressive online workshops, he has a workshop that you can buy online. And I went through that thing. I devoured that. And that was where I really started. I mean, I got super into his meditations. I did all of his meditations. And I realized that desire was my most important job,
Okay.
was to connect to something I want more than anything else. Like that is the key, is to focus on what I want and recognize when I can't grab it, when I can't feel something, it's because I'm afraid that I can't have it.
Mm,
So deal with that fear. And when you break through that fear and you face that fear, but feeling those emotions is so important because otherwise you can't get past them. So that's where the EFT came in, because I was doing all the Dr. Joe work. I was desiring, but I was like, but there's something holding me back. I'm in my own way.
yeah.
How do I get out of my own way? And then I found the rapid relief method and I was like, this is it. And I was like, I'm getting certified. I'm going to learn how to do this. And because I want to do this for other people. And so being able to get through those blocks, being able to say, like, I'm afraid of this goal. What am I so afraid of? Tapping through that, clearing that fear, clearing that energy, clearing whatever it is that is sitting there pumping the brakes while I'm trying to hit the gas,
Mm,
and and be able to connect to that thing that I want. And there's one thing um that came to me where I say, like, the desire is so important, and our ability to feel joy, to feel the gratitude, can seem really simple, but when your experience as a human becomes elevated, that's when you can elevate your human experience.
yep.
So like when you can truly tap in and sit and feel the gratitude, when you can feel the gratitude for all the things and let that light you up, then that can carry you through anything. And that's when everything in life gets better, That's when you can call in the things that are bigger. That's when you're not afraid of going for the next step.
Yep. So
And
powerful.
it's the simplest thing and the hardest thing, I think, to do.
It's the power of the mind, and it's the knowing, this again, this innate ability, these superpowers that we all have that get muted through childhood, and they get they never get home, they never get talked about. A lot of times there's people, like, I look at my youngest son William, he's 4 years old, and he is powerful. Like, he is a creator, he is amazing with people. My 6-year-old Grayson, he's incredibly intelligent. He's like an analytical, very emotional, but there's definitely, like, you could tell William has that gift of like being able to tap in kind of the spiritual world just naturally, which is incredible. And I say that to say that I feel like we all have that stroke of genius and we all have that creative amazingness, but it kind of gets stamped out through society, and especially years ago, and things are starting to change a little bit, but now there's more people coming online talking about these types of things and how powerful it is. So hopefully the next generation that comes after us, like let's say our kids age, you have a 3-year-old, I have a 4 and a 6-year-old, like they could be better equipped based on our experiences. And that's something that I do with my work, is how to show up better for them, and be the dad to them that I never had. Because again, my dad was a heroin addict and he didn't show up for me. And like, the last 10 years of his life, he cleaned it up, but then, he was still drinking and like still on methadone. So he wasn't fully present, but at least he wasn't shooting heroin every day. And as men, and I'm sure, do you work with men as well?
I do.
Okay. Yeah. So as men, unfortunately, many of us, a big portion of us, were never taught how to work with emotions as men through our father figures, or how to, support ourselves or be there for ourselves, or coping mechanisms that are healthy. Like, a lot of it's just like, suck it up, buttercup, like, don't be a pussy, like all that shit. And that doesn't work. Like, we're all emotional vessels and beings. And like, when you close that side of you off, like, so many bad things can happen. And so, this type of work, energy, you talk about, like, the body keeps the score. And whenever you have energy that gets stuck in you, it can lead to dis-ease, which can lead to disease. And like, a lot of times disease comes from bad energy and stuck energy and things. That I was in Peru, I'll go back to this. And one of the buddies I was with, we were on a San Pedro journey, which is the masculine. Like, so we did ayahuasca, which is the feminine, the area, the third eye opening, the spiritual contact. San Pedro's the grounding, the masculine, it's the grandfather cactus. So it's like a great polarity to have both the feminine and masculine, because we all have the divine of those, both in us. And when we're doing San Pedro, we're very heart opening. I got to meet my daughter who passed away. I sat with her spirit for 2 hours, and it was the most powerful thing in the world. And at some point during the journey, it wasn't specifically because of the Alana moment, but like, one of my buddies came up to me and took a glass heart from someone's mesa, which is like a little portable altar, and took a glass heart or a stone heart and put it on my chest and said, "Let it flow, let it go." And he, like, I didn't ask for this. Like, he was just tapped in. He had his reason. He just like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm doing it. He puts the heart on my heart. He goes, "Let it flow, let it go, let it flow, let it go." And like, I'm like, okay, I'm letting it go. Like, I don't know what you're talking about, but like, whatever. But like, this is part of the energy. This is part of, letting things go through you. So like, one of the points is, when you're sad, it's okay to be sad. When you're lonely, it's okay to be lonely. But like, it doesn't mean you are lonely. You just feel lonely in the moment. You feel sad in the moment. And if we don't store these things, we'll be healthier. But if we do store them, it could lead to disease. And I think that it was funny, because the story about that heart, it made its way around back to its original person, like, through the way it should have. So like, this guy, Mark, who was the facilitator at this place in Peru, it was his stone heart. And Steven went in to go get the stone heart to bring it to me, to put it on me. I held it. I thought I was going to keep the heart. I didn't know where the heart came from. And then my buddy Lane, who's also like my soul brother and like co-facilitator of one of my businesses, he was going through his tough stuff. And so I took the heart and I went over to Lane and I like put it on his heart. And then Steven and I were like holding space for him, not saying anything, just like literally holding him as he was going through his tough time. So the heart made it to him. And then eventually the heart made it back to Mark, the rightful owner. So it was like just this beautiful circle of love, literally with like a heart. And it was all about energy. It was all about everybody releasing this stuck, stagnant, powerful energy. And it was beautiful.
And no, and I love everything about that. And I love, the community aspect that you have with that's what's so powerful about ceremony, is because it is the collective, and and if you're empathic, you take on the collective and you start taking on that energy. But it's just like you said, it's the ability to let it flow, the ability to allow ourselves to feel all the things, because and every bit of sadness, every bit of weakness, anything that you hate about yourself, that's a great exercise for everybody to go through. Write down everything that you don't like about yourself, like everything that you wish you could change. And then look at that same list and recognize how every single thing on there, whether it's weakness, whether it's playing small, whether it's being angry, whatever it has saved your life in some way, shape, or form at some time. And when we can look at all of the parts of us, the shadow and the light, with love, that's when it all flows. That's when it all flows to you. That's when you become the magnet for everything that you want, because you're not resisting anything anymore.
So powerful. It's so powerful. I am beyond ecstatic about where our journey is going to lead, and the conversations we're going to have, and the work that we'll do together, and supporting each other. I already can feel a lot of great things happening. So as far as today, this is May 24th. This will come out in about a month or so in June. But um, where are you at with business and your soul's journey? Like, what are you working on today?
Well, I have a program called the Limitless Entrepreneur, which is my ongoing group business coaching and mindset coaching program. I work with people one-on-one, mostly on the mindset stuff. The one-on-one work is typically around the tapping and soul journey. That's for mostly 6 and 7 figure entrepreneurs who are looking to break through their internal barriers.
Yes.
So that's the other work that I do. And then I have some things cooking. I'm feeling very called to a few other programs that are shorter form. So be on the lookout for those. You can keep up with me on my website at NicoleLaino.me, and then on my Instagram at Nicole Laino Official. Those are all ways that you will hear about everything that I have going on. But I have some new programs. I'm looking at the list right now on my desk, and they make me excited. There's a lot of great stuff happening that'll be shorter containers, but for exponential growth in these short periods of time.
Well, soul sister, I want to be the first one from the audience and the viewers to say you're amazing. Thank you for being you. I love you. I think you're great. I'm excited to see how our path unfolds, and who knows, we're doing another retreat, transformational weekend in Sedona, right, the second week of August. And so maybe we can have you come, like, either guest, like appear, or facilitate, or whatever, if you're called to it, but we'll figure that out. But thank you so much for you. We'll make sure that everybody gets a copy of this in the world if we can. We'll just put it in everyone's hands. And I'm looking forward to actually doing some of this work myself. But she is the amazing, the mighty, the powerful Nicole Laino. I'm Jesse T. Be sure to catch us on next week's episode of The Jesse T Show.